Hey everyone, today we're looking at Tokaido, the ultra zen game from Antoine Bozat and illustrated by Nayad. This is the big deluxe edition box which contains the base game, the first expansion Crossroads, as well as a giant board, some miniatures, some metal coins, and even a CD to enjoy Japanese music while playing. Indeed, Tokaido invites us on a trip along the Japanese coast. Players will have time to take advantage of the many stops along the road, all the while keeping a steady pace to forge their own way forward towards the end goal. Grab your backpack and let's go! The road Tokaido runs over 500 kilometers along the Japanese coast and connects Kyoto to Edo, nowadays Tokyo. Thousands of travelers have been walking this path for centuries now, stopping at different places to visit inns, temples, villages, or farms. A traveler on the Tokaido road is set on a rite of passage of some sort, which will open his eyes to the beauty of life as he meditates in front of magnificent panoramas, eats delicious meals, bathe in hot springs, or encounter other enlightened travelers along the way. In Tokaido, up to 5 players set out on this famous journey hoping to make the most of the trip. Every action along the way, whether eating at the inn, admiring a beautiful panorama, or buying a souvenir at the shop, will earn each traveler some points. The player with the most points at the end of the road in Edo will be the winner. The traveler pieces are randomly placed at the first inn, then the player the furthest from the road will start the game. This rule always applies during the game. The last traveler on the road is always the one to play, even if this means that the same player has to play several times in a row. Also, all travelers must always move forward on the road and thus progress on their journey. A player can never stay put or go backwards, but may advance and skip as many spots as he wishes. The player will then take the action linked to the place where he stopped. Note that a traveler cannot stop in a place already occupied by another player unless it is a double space that can host 2 travelers. For instance, purple will go there, turquoise will move forward and stop at the temple here, yellow will only move to the first shop, and gray can meet with yellow since there's a place for him. The last traveler to reach a double place will always be considered as the furthest from the road. In this case, gray is in last position and must immediately play again. Gray is not allowed to stay where he is, and these 2 stations are already taken. He may stop here, meet up purple, or just continue on his way to stop, for instance here. It is now yellow's turn. In a 2 or 3 player game, there's no such thing as double spaces. All spaces are considered to be single space only, and it is then truly impossible to stop where another traveler already is. Anyway, each player must organize his own journey and try to hit the spots he wants before they become unavailable. But to run directly to the desired station implies skipping many others and then foregoing opportunities to earn more points, and it goes without saying that moving too far ahead also allows the other players to take their sweet time, since they'll get to play more turns as long as they stay behind. A few inns are scattered along the way. When a player reaches one of them, that player will have to stop there and wait for his fellow travelers to meet him before continuing on his journey. At the inns, the travelers will get the chance to taste different Japanese culinary specialties. The first player to reach the inn will draw as many cards as there are players plus 1. He'll look at these cards, choose the meal he wants to taste, pay the according price, and immediately score 6 points. The remaining cards will be passed to the following player to arrive at the inn, who will also choose his meal, pay for it, and get the 6 points, and so on and so forth, until all players get a chance to choose a meal. During the game, a player cannot eat twice the same meal, so it could be dangerous to arrive too late at the inn and be stuck with a forbidden dish. A player must also have enough money to pay for the meal. If a traveler cannot afford it, or if there's nothing he's allowed to eat, that traveler will just sleep with an empty stomach and won't get the 6 points. Apart from the inns, none of the stops are mandatory on the Tokaido road. Players can choose where they want to go to earn more points, and they can skip as many spots as they want. Along the way, players will find shops where they get to buy souvenir. A player who stops in a shop draws the first 3 cards and chooses which items he wishes to buy. All other cards are simply discarded. The souvenirs are sorted in 4 different groups. The group it belongs to is shown on the lower right corner of the card. The goal is to own items from different groups to get a collection. A single card is worth 1 point. The second card of a collection, so a card from a different group than the first one, is worth 3 points. The third card in a collection is worth 5 points, and the fourth card scores 7 points. All in all, a complete collection of 4 souvenirs coming from 4 different groups is worth 16 points. A traveler can start several collections at once to get even more points. Panoramas are calm and beautiful vistas where players can admire the country landscape. There are 3 different types of panoramas: rice paddy field, mountain, and sea, each represented by different spaces on the board. When a player stops at a panorama, this traveler starts or continues to build his own corresponding panorama by adding the next piece of the picture. For instance, the first time a player stops at a sea panorama, he gets the sea card number 1. This card gives him 1 point. His next stop on a sea panorama will get him the sea card number 2, which scores 2 additional points, and so on and so forth. The complete paddy panorama requires 3 cards, the mountain spreads across 4 cards, and the sea flows over 5 cards. The goal is to be the first to finish a specific panorama to earn the corresponding achievement card. Each one of these achievements is worth 3 extra points. During his journey, a player can only work on a single panorama of each type. On the road, players will also find hot springs. A player who chooses to take a hot bath will simply draw a card that will earn him either 2 or 3 points. A stop at the farm gives the traveler 3 coins from the bank. This is an efficient way to replenish one's wallet in order to pay for a meal at the inn or to buy a souvenir at the shop. Money is also used in the temples. At a temple, a traveler is required to offer 1, 2, or 3 coins. The offering is placed next to the traveler's color on the board. Each coin given this way scores 1 point. At the end of the game, the most generous player will score 10 extra points. The second most generous will get 7 points, the third most generous will get 4 points, and all other travelers who also contributed to the temple will score 2 points. Finally, some places allow travelers to encounter interesting characters. At these stops, the travelers will draw the first card and apply its effect. Thanks to the traveling merchant card, the player can draw a free souvenir from the draw pile and score the corresponding points from his collections. The guide grants a new panorama card. There's a guide for each type of panorama: paddy, mountain, and sea. The samurai gives 3 points, the noble offers 3 coins, and the Shinto priest makes a coin offering to the temple in honor of the player. Even if this coin comes from the bank, the traveler still scores a point, just like he would if he made the offering himself. From places to places, travelers pursue their journey to Edo, while they'll have to stop at the inn and eat one last time before they tally up the final score. The points should have been tracked in real time during the game, but it is also possible to recount everything at the end thanks to all the cards players have kept in front of them during the trip. Just don't forget to add the points accorded by the temple and by the achievements possibly won by being the first to complete one of the 3 panoramas. For additional achievement cards also need to be distributed at the end of the game. They're each worth 3 extra points. The player who spent the most money on food gets the gourmet achievement. The traveler who collected the most cards from hot springs get the bather achievement. The player with the most encounter cards obtains the chatterbox achievement. And finally, the player with the most souvenir cards received the collector achievement. At that point, the player with the most points wins the game. There, now you know how to play Tokaido, but you still don't know everything about the game since we haven't talked about the different characters you can play with. The Tokaido base game offers a selection of 10 characters. Each one of them will leave Kyoto with a different starting amount of money and with a personal special power. For instance, Hiroshige the artist starts his journey with 3 coins and can add an extra panorama card every time he stops at the inn. Kinko the Ronin starts the game with 7 coins and gets a discount of 1 coin for every one of his meals. Sasayako the Geisha starts with 5 coins. When she stops in a shop, if she buys 2 souvenirs, the cheapest of the 2 becomes free, and so on and so forth. At the start of the game, each player draws 2 characters and decide which one of them will get to go on the journey. Players can also use the bag matching the color of their pawns on the board to indicate which traveler they've chosen. If playing with the Deluxe or Collector Edition, players can also use figurines to represent their character on the board. And these editions also come with metal coins to replace the cardboard tokens from the regular box. Some variants and modifications, especially for the 2-player game, are also available to adapt the journey to your liking. There are also expansions. The first one, Crossroads, is directly included in this big deluxe edition box. So if you want to learn more about Crossroads, but also know what Matsuri, the second expansion, is all about, just click on the following vignette and I'll give you a guided tour. But that's it for the base game, so have a nice trip on the Tokaido road, but come back and visit soon, we'll have another board game on the table. Take care.